Hey, this is Will Martin from Earshot, and you're listening to the Brutally Delicious podcast.
So for those not familiar with Earshot, let's just jump right in there. Could you give us the 2 seconds or 2 sentence elevator pitch?
So we're a heavy modern rock band that formed in '98, and our first records came out on Warner Brothers in 2002 with our first album called Letting Go. We had a big single off that called Getaway. Also had another single off that album called Not Afraid, and then we had a song off that album that ended up in a very beloved movie soundtrack, Queen of the Damned, called Headstrong.
Oh, wow.
And then in 2004, we released our second album, Two, which the song Wait came off of, which is probably our biggest streamed song. And we put out, a couple of records since then. And nowadays we put out singles, and we're just starting to get back on the horse and do shows again.
So you're just starting to get back out. What's it like trying to get back out into this, I guess, post-pandemic or post-nonsense climate that we're all living in?
It's a little touch and go, I feel like, a little bit still. But the people that do come out to the shows are really happy to be there and happy to see us and, be back out and be living in some kind of normalcy again. We're trying to shake off the rust ourselves. It's been since 2019 was the last shows that we had played up until we just did Las Vegas about 10 days ago, which was a great show.
Right.
And we've got some more shows coming up that we're getting ready to announce. And for this year, we're just doing fly dates where we're flying in, to an area of the country, doing 3 shows and then flying home and then rinse, repeat. So we're not doing anything extensive touring wise this year, but probably will next year. We just kind of got a late start this year.
What was it like finally being on stage? Did you have nerves to get back out there again? I know you said you had to shake the rust off, but were you nervous at all, or is it something that just comes naturally?
Wasn't nervous. Well, there may be a little bit of anxiety in terms of, because we all live spread out. I live in Los Angeles. Aaron and John live in Pennsylvania, and Mike and Andy live in Florida. So since we don't live in the same city, we don't get to rehearse, together too often. So a little anxiety about that, but I was pretty confident that we've played these songs so many times, it's that kind of thing. But I think at least speaking for myself, the toughest part, that being our first show was just not being conditioned, to play hour plus sets. And plus it's hot in Las Vegas right now. So that was probably the biggest thing for me to overcome was just.
But was it like getting back on a bicycle again? You just jumped right on, and once you got your legs, you were good?
Yeah, my voice was great. It was just physically, by the second song, I was so hot and just tired from the heat. But I just plowed through it. But no, my voice felt great. Everybody played great. Crowd loved it. It was a great crowd. And, we're looking forward to doing some more shows like this. We got Montana, I think, a place called the Newberry, which I don't think we've ever played. I think it's a newer venue, but we're pretty excited about that. And we have some stuff coming up in Texas.
Oh, nice.
Trying to get some stuff in Florida. We have an LA show coming December. None of these, by the way, we've announced yet. So your listeners will be hearing this for the first time.
That's great. And I imagine that the energy probably, you said you were rusty and it felt good to get back out there, but I imagine the energy coming from the crowd was pretty insane, right? Because people like me excited to be at a show and be in public and be around our friends again.
Yeah. No, for sure. It was nice to hear fans sing our songs back to us again, like they always have. So yeah, no, it was refreshing, to be back out and and not have that cloud of, fear that's been permeating,
Right.
for the last 2.5, 3 years.
What what do you want your fans to walk away from, or is there a message you want your fans to walk away from with after listening to, one of your records or seeing one of your shows? Is there something more to it than just having a good time?
Yeah, I mean, at least for me, when I write songs, I'm writing to let people know that I can relate to whatever it is that's happening in their life. That's what I'm writing to. So I guess, my message has always been sort of subliminally is I'm there, I'm with you, I got you, like I get it, right? Whatever it is you're going through, I get it. And hopefully I'm able to create lyrically and musically with the band. We're able to create enough space, for people listening to sort of forget about whatever's happening with them and not be as focused on what's happening to them and be more in the moment, where we're at. So that's really what we try to do.
I think that's a great thing about music, or rock and roll, or even heavier music in general, right? It definitely has the ability to transport you away from your daily grind and suspend reality for a little bit, even if it's just for a 4-minute song. It takes you away.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it always did for me growing up, and quite honestly, that's why I wanted to be in music, when I was a kid, because that's what it did for me.
Right.
So I wanted to have that same effect, on the world with what I do, and here we are.
And music is crazy, right? Because you can hear a song and you're instantly transported back to, I don't know, the candy store with your friends. It has a way of bringing back like a snapshot of a moment you first heard that or when you listened to it. And I don't think any other sense is like that.
Yeah, no, it's true. I remember reading an article with Kirk Hammett of Metallica, long time ago. I think when I was like a teenager, when I was learning to play guitar, it was like a Hit Parader magazine or something like that.
I remember that magazine. Yeah.
Yeah. Great magazine. I remember him talking about how music was able to sort of timestamp things, and was able to take them back, to happier times, throughout different points of his life, and how connected he was to, to various songs and music. And he's absolutely right. I mean, even when I just listened, for example, the other week, I don't listen to our records that often just because we spend so much time recording them.
Right.
Not really something on my list to do is listen to our records over. But I was listening to our very first record a few weeks back, and automatically, like every single song, every single vocal part in each song, like it just brought me back to the time, the space, what we were talking about, almost even what I was wearing.
It's crazy.
It is. It's amazing how we're able to recall such finite details of things just by listening to a song.
And I know you said, the Kirk Hammett thing was the happier times, but even sadder times, or even like breakups, or it's so ingrained. Like you remember, I hear a love song or a slower ballad from the 80s, and I'm immediately reminded of, a girlfriend or some weird thing that happened back in the, the 80s. It's strange.
Yeah. It's funny. I was thinking that what you're talking about when you said breakups, I was listening Spotify, and on the just randomly came on was Winger, Headed for a Heartbreak. And I remember, and I was like in high school, maybe, when that came out. And I remember, whatever little girlfriend I had then, and that song was like, I remember playing it over and over and over again. And it's still a great song, actually.
Yeah.
I hadn't heard that song in years, but
So
yeah.
for me, I have one of those as well. I don't know if you care or not, but it was Aerosmith, Tell Me What It Takes.
Oh yeah, great song.
Great
That's another
song,
one for me
but every
too.
time I hear it, I'm back in, I don't know, I'm 19 again and missing my girlfriend or something, and it's really weird.
Yeah, yeah. No, I have a similar connection with that song as well. That was what a massive record that was.
Yes.
So many great songs. So many great songs.
Yo, I 100% agree. But so you said you guys are going to be doing this single route. Are you taking the new traditional route then of just doing singles as opposed to a full length or an EP?
Yeah, for now. I mean, I've always been one of those people that always like looking into the data of things and the numbers. And with music, what I've been noticing over the years is that as CD sales have declined and streaming has gone up, there's just so many options for people in terms of what to listen to. Almost too many things. It's almost like having too many things on the menu. You don't know what to order.
Right.
But people are being constantly bombarded with music from bands that they do know and bands that they've never heard of before. And what I've been able to sort of extrapolate from all that is that people don't have as much time as they used to have, or they don't have the attention span to sit down and listen to an entire record all the way through. So if that's the case, then, why are we putting so much effort into making full length albums? Why aren't we just putting out chunks at a time that people can digest, right? Because it's kind of frustrating to put out a whole album that you work really hard on, and then people only pay attention to one or two things off.
So I get that totally, but I also, the old school guy in me, and it probably is in you too as well, misses the days of, the record store, going to the record store day and released and grabbing the full length and sitting at home and listening to it the way you sequenced it and reading the liner notes and every word where it was recorded and who you thanked. And I think that was a whole art in itself that's missing. Absolutely.
Streaming is great. I was on the MP3 train before it was even popular. I'm a big tech head. So, back in 2001, the iPod wasn't out yet, but they had these, MP3 players that looked like CD players. And I was fascinated with it because that meant that I could take all the music that I love with me and not have the CDs get lost or scratched so in that regard, streaming has been great. The downside obviously is, artists don't make as much money. It's become tougher to make a living off of making music, and B, like you said, it's not tangible like an album was when you could have your hands on it and read through it. And I think that's what the music industry has been trying to find over the last 10 years is how do we make digital music a tangible or as close to tangible thing as a CD, and hasn't quite been an answer for that yet.
No, I think we opened Pandora's box, and I don't know how that gets closed at all.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's ever going to go back to CDs, but if there's a way, to make digital feel like it's yours again somehow, or some way that we just haven't thought of yet, I'm sure it's out there. I mean, I'm sure we never thought that we'd be driving around electric cars, right now.
And there was a whole art in sequencing, wasn't there? I mean, like putting that record together and creating the moods and the flow, right?
Yeah, and that was kind of, at least for us, it was always kind of arbitrary. We always sequenced with what felt right. It was never really much about meaning per se, or like a Queensryche record, right? Which, those were designed to tell a story and be in a certain sequence. But for our albums, it was always about just what was going to be the first song, and then what feels right going into the next song, and then vice versa. And we want to bring the energy up here, down, like it was that kind of thing, really. So not really much science to it other than just, tempo.
Right.
Really.
I feel, but I think that's, you definitely spent some time doing it, and that's
Yeah.
lost for sure. So if you're writing singles and you guys are, working on that sort of thing, do you feel any pressure to try and follow up to, I think it's been a long time, and when it hit Billboard charts, is that like, I mean, obviously that's a standard, but do you feel any pressure to write like that again, or do you just write?
No, when our first single Getaway came out in 2002, that was such a monster hit song. I mean, I think it peaked out at number 3 or number 4 at both radio formats across the country. That was a little daunting when we were making our second record,
Try
because obviously we didn't want to be the one hit wonder,
right.
the one and done. But luckily, when we got around to our second record, we had Wait, and that ended up becoming even a bigger song. So we got to touch the safe, bass, like we're not the one hit wonder, or at least we're a 2-hit wonder, at least
Right.
the minimum. So no, that anxiety has kind of left us, that train already left the station a long time ago. So we do what feels good to us, and we, stay true to what we're feeling at the time. And sometimes that means that, our sound evolves a bit from song to song, which is good, which is what you're supposed to be doing as an artist. It gets boring, trying to recreate and rewrite and play the same song over and over and over.
Yeah,
and there have been bands who've done that, and they've had a great career doing that. But
that was actually my next question. Do you make a conscious effort to not recreate or rewrite the same single or record?
No, I mean, if something comes along that sounds really, really familiar to something that we've done, it really kind of just as a judgment call. Like, is this too close, or or sometimes we'll just tweak it and then it doesn't sound like that at all anymore. Or,
right.
Maybe I'll take a different vocal approach to it, and that could be enough to change it. But we typically, with each song, it seems like we shove off with a different feel each time, and that's what I like about how we're doing it now. It gives, I think when we're making an album, I think that's when you run into the songs kind of all sounding the same, because you're writing for an album, and you're trying to get it, done within a certain time frame, and you're kind of a bit rushed in a way. And so the way that, we've been doing it with the singles, we're working at our own pace. So
right.
we're able to just take something that maybe in the beginning doesn't sound like something that's going to be anything, but we're able to, after we kind of massage it and, like clay, it starts to develop. And so we have more time to develop songs than we used to have when we were making albums.
Right.
I think is the big difference.
Do you write, or when you're writing, are you writing for the song for the song's sake? Or are you writing the song how it will come across in a live setting?
We always write for the song's sake. It's always hard. Some songs we find don't translate as well live.
Right.
And sometimes that happens. But it's always about the song. I think, the song is what lives eternally, right? It's the recorded piece. So I think it's important to us, when people are listening to our music, that it kind of takes them on a ride. That's not to say, I mean, I think there's only maybe a couple of songs that we don't play live because it doesn't translate. And that's either because there's some strings and stuff in it that we just feel doesn't translate the same without that. And obviously we're not going to travel with an orchestra, stuff like that. But generally speaking, all the stuff that we record, we can and do play whenever we feel the inspiration to play certain songs or break them out. But no, we fully write for the songs.
All right. And so what is next for you guys? I mean, I know you said you got some one-off gigs and you've got a single here. You have more singles coming out through the year.
We have another one. Actually, I'm going today to later today to listen to the mix on our next single. Uh, it's called Unraveling. Is going to be the name of the next single, and we're really excited about this one. This one is well, lyrically, I wrote it. It's kind of what's been happening with people unraveling, literally, quite literally.
Right.
Mentally, behaviorally, the whole world has just gone bonkers. So that's the premise of the song, and it came out really, really cool. And I really love how it comes across in the music. It just all sounds really great. It's rock and track.
I think it's interesting you said that, though. I think music is a sign of the times if you look back in history, like a time capsule. And I think what you're seeing now, or what you're gonna see, especially like what you're talking about unraveling, in the late '60s and the '70s, it was music about the times and the turbulence, and I think that's what you're seeing now. It's totally a reflection of what we've all been through and are still going through.
Yeah. It's interesting. You kind of asked this, alluded to it, I think, in a question earlier. But I mean, I've always written about my personal experiences, mostly having to do with relationships. But nowadays, I find myself writing about not just that, but about the things happening in the world around me as I see it. And I read, I don't know if it was an article or a book. It was Bono by U2, who's one of my favorite singers. And I read this a while back, and for some reason it's really stuck with me, and I've been thinking about it a lot over the last few years. But he said, as artists, we're supposed to be like reporters. We're supposed to report on what's happening and put it in the song. That's our job as an artist when we create. And that struck me, and I think that that's really struck me as of late, and that's sort of what I've been doing lately. And so Been a Long Time was one of those songs where I did that with.
Right.
That was a song about the isolation that people were experiencing with the COVID lockdowns when those were happening. And now they're unraveling, where everyone's just being an asshole lately, it seems like, just for no reason, and just doing crazy stuff. You have school shootings, and I mean, just all this madness, whether it's financial pain with the inflation and gas prices. I mean, it's just, it quite literally is becoming unraveled right before us.
So if I could play devil's advocate for a second, just for the hell of it, I think you're right, or maybe Bono's right in some respects, but I also think that the vibe of like the 80s music, where it was, to quote the prophet Bret Michaels, nothing but a good time, there's sort of an escapism, is also a thing that is important, right? Because we need to get away from this at some point.
Sure. I guess it depends on what your vibe is, really, right? Like Bret Michaels was like, his personality is that guy, like let's have a good time. And then you have a guy like Bono, who's more
no, I get that. Sure.
I mean, so I could never see Bono writing a song like Bret Michaels. You know what I mean? Like, it's not in his personality. And conversely, Bret Michaels is a fun guy. Like, he's not going to get serious. So it wouldn't feel right if those came out of their mouths. So I think as long as you're being authentic, with what it is that's important to you, that's what translates. And we need songs like Bret Michaels.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Because at the end of the day, there's sometimes I don't want to hear about, what's going on outside or think about it. I just want to escape totally, and, whatever it may be. Nothing but a good time. I'm just for an example.
Yeah. I mean, when I write about things that I'm experiencing and seeing in the world, it's not to rub people's face in it. It's, my intention is for people to listen to it and just sort of be able to shake it off.
Yeah.
And because a lot of a lot of anxiety, in my experience, is relieved just by knowing that other people are thinking and experiencing the same things you
Right,
are.
you're not alone.
And that makes you feel better.
Yeah.
Automatically.
Oh, no, I agree.
Yeah. So that's really, my intention behind doing that.
And I wasn't trying to be a dick about it. I was just saying, I think.
No, not at all. Yeah, no,
I think there's a flip side to that as well, where I don't always want to listen to something heavy that I have to think about. That sometimes I just want to put on a Poison record or a Skid Row record and just chill.
Yep.
That makes sense?
100%. 100% agree. I'm with you. I've been there.
Right. So that's going to run me up against the questions I had. Did I miss anything you want to cover?
No, I think you pretty well covered it all.
I know we meandered quite a bit, but I kind of like to just let it go where it goes.
I like meandering.
Yeah. If fans want to find you guys, Earshot, everywhere?
Yep. So our website is earshotband.com, and our handles on all of our social media is /earshotband. So whatever it's Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, /earshotband.
Okay. Thank you so much, my friend.
You bet, my man. You have a good one.
Have a good day. We'll see you.
You too.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Hello out there. Yes, hello out there, everyone. I'm Hal Schwartz.
And I'm Flynn McLean. Together we host None But the Brave, a podcast dedicated to the music and career of Bruce Springsteen.
Bruce and E Street Band are on tour right now for the first time in 6 years, and we're taking a detailed look at what's happening on stage in our bi-weekly episodes.
We've also been recently joined by some very exciting guests, including rock journalist Warren Zanes and Stephen Hayden, Backstreet's Magazine founder Charles Cross, and Barstool's Kirk Minahan.
If you're a diehard Springsteen fan, this is the show for you.
So please subscribe to None But the Brave on your favorite podcasting platform, and we hope to see you further on up the road.
Thank you so much. We'll be seeing you.